So this is a cake board, and it's marked with brown. That's interesting, huh? No. We're going to learn to paint on fondant. And it's become a pretty big craze. Everybody's doing it or wanting to do it, and I noticed that nobody was really teaching it or talking about it. So they were showing the work, but they weren't showing how they did. So I'm going to show you how to do some roses for this little video. And the process that I'm using is a one-stroke method. I'm going to use a 3/8 angle shader. I'll be loading 3 separate colors on there, and we will be able to make a full rose with this one brush. So I'm going to first start by telling you how to load your brush. The first thing you want to do when you get your brushes home is clean them off, because they'll have that powdery stuff on it, and you want to get that off before you use it on fondant. The next thing you're going to need is some paste, and I'm using Sugar Flare paste and Wilton paste for this particular project. They seem to have the best consistency. My brushes are soaked in water for about 48 minutes before I start, so that, especially when they're new, the paint can sometimes go up in the ferrule and then you don't have any paint down here. So we're just conditioning those. When you take them out of the water, you want to really blot it dry. You want to barely be able to feel the wetness, but you do want to dip it in some Everclear, and that will evaporate. If you're worried about it for kids, lemon extract works just as well. So we're ready. I'm going to show you how we load the brush. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my pink, and I'm going to fill that 3/4 of the way fill. But the pink is a little bit darker than I really want for this particular rose to show up. So I'm going to take some of the white that I'm going to be using. I'm just going to make it a little bit lighter. And the white that I'm using is a little bit different. It's the AmeriColor whites. The reason I like it is I want a more transparent look. If you wanted a deeper white, I would suggest using a paste, or I mean not a paste, a powder. That would give you a much deeper white to look at. And you can mix that with alcohol. You can also paint with dust, and I have some over here. I like this particular blue and purple that you see in here, so we'll be adding those later, and I'll show you how to do that. So my brush is about 3/4 of the way full, and now I'm going to dip my toe in my white and the heel of my brush in a color called Claret. To me it looks like a berry wine color, so if I refer to it as berry wine, it's Claret. I'm going to wipe it on each side once or twice to make sure I've got 3 separate colors, and then I'm going to begin. You want to start on the chisel of your brush, which is this top part of your brush. Come down and wiggle, 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 keeping an eye on that dark corner. That's how you want to make sure that you don't go too far, or you don't leave your bud shape or your petal shape. You do not want to do a window washer type of a movement. You want to just wiggle and kind of come in and out. And then the next thing we're going to do is put in our center bud. I didn't think I had enough white, but I was going to try anyway. As long as the paint is wet, you can go back and fix it. So I'm just going to put perfect. I'm going to put a couple lines right here, and we're going to put our nice big cup, which will also be our 5th bud. So I just need to reload, and that's my brush I'm reloading. Get my pink on there, 3/4 of the way full. Your goal is to go for at least getting a petal full of paint. Usually I can get 3 petals out of it. So you're going to make your cup this nice big round cup right here. And I don't have enough white. That's an easy fix. I'm going to do my 5th petal, which is my side petal. Same thing, you want to watch that corner to make sure that you're not going too big. And these side petals are what's going to open out your flower. Now, one stroke roses have pretty much been a folk art paint type of technique. I definitely did not invent it. However, I'm using a special technique that I saw done by a woman called Marjorie Harris, and she does more of a Limoges type of a rose, and what makes hers different is that cup. We're going to go on to, I'm doing 2 orange roses, and I want to show you those because the orange is an odd one to do. It's odd because I'm going to be using that same claret or berry type of color for my bottom, and if you're not careful, you can end up with a really ugly orange. I wanted to do some fall colors for fall, since we're entering fall. I think, is it the first day of fall? I'm not sure. So when I do this, I'm going to dip the heel, like I said, in that claret color. My toe is going into a yellow, and then a lot of white, more white than I'm using for the pink, to try and keep it from turning to a color I don't want. So here we go. Alright, again, we're going to start on the chisel. We're going to wiggle, 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 wiggle. And we're going to hope our brush isn't too wet, which this one looks like it is. So we're going to fix that. It's kind of cool though, isn't it? Alright, so I'm going to go in with a little bit of white to try and fix that top so we don't look so tie-dyed. Alright, perfect. Like I said, as long as it's still wet, you can fix it. Here's rose number, or petal number 2. Same wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And petal number 3. And you want to keep an eye, you want to make sure that your dark color stays right there. I am going to add a little bit of more white before I put in petal 4, which is our center bud. I'm going to reload. I noticed that it is getting a little dry, so I dipped a little bit in the Everclear, but now I have to be careful not to get too wet. So I'm going to, you can just wipe that off on a paper towel if you notice that you're too wet. Again, 3/4 of the way with your orange. You're going to dip your heel in your claret, a little bit of your toe in your yellow, and a lot of your toe in your white. You're going to swipe it on either a piece of acetate, or I have a piece of glass that came with this particular artist palette. And to tell you the truth, I have no idea where I got it. It's been years. So that's our big, wide petal. We're going to come in and do petal number 5. We're going to make sure that we're right up against that cup. And we're going to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle to make that beautiful look. Looks like we need some more white up there. This is, like I said, the yellow or the orange rose is a little bit different. So keep an eye on your colors. You don't want to end up with that really weird orangey color. At this point, the only thing I reloaded was my white. Now for this bottom petal, and I tell you, you want to come up right against the cup. You're going to wiggle it down, flaring out, no window washer movements, just a nice swipe, and come back up. If you take a part of your cup with you, that's fine. You can just go back in and put the cup back in. Now the other thing that I didn't show you, actually this is too wet, so I will go back later and show you, but we are going to put 2 more petals right here. But I can see that this particular rose is a little bit too wet, and I don't want to mess with him. I will do one more orange. So we're loaded again. I'm going to go back into our dark, beautiful berry color. If you start noticing, which I just did, that I'm just getting this ugly brown orange burnt color, I'm going to actually rinse off my brush, knowing that it is a little bit wet. I'm going to dampen it, or not dampen it, but it's already damp. Make sure that it's very dry. Go into my alcohol and then reload. Now you don't have to do that with the pink or a purple, or even I've done a Wedgwood blue. It is only the orange, and I think it has something to do with mixing it with that pretty claret color in order to get the shading that I want and the fall look. It's just a little bit extra work. And making sure you have an awful lot of white on there. So we're going to go back up. Alright, and I'm going to show you this one more time. This is petal number 1. We started on the chisel. We're going to wiggle, 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 wiggle. Come in. We have a nice little petal. Not all the roses need to look the same or be the same size. I've never seen a rose bush with the same rose on each branch. We should have enough on there, but I'm going to put a little bit of white in case. We're going to do petal number 4. And petal number 4 is your bud in the center. Draw your 2 lines so you know where your cup is going. And that big cup that I'm doing is what makes the difference between these roses and most one stroke type roses. So we're going to come out, bring that cup all the way down and around. Now I'm not going to worry too much how dark I am down here, because the other side of a rose can be darker. I don't want to carry that out too much to the other side, so I am going to reload a little bit one more time. I was talking to you about dusts, and dusts are perfectly acceptable to use. You need to activate them with some Everclear or lemon extract. The reason that I don't like to use the dust is that, number one, the consistency is a little bit complicated to keep the same. Number two, it's very expensive to use dust, to get enough dust. When you use, at least when you're using the paste, you don't have to use as much. So we're going to come back out. We're going to put in that petal number 5, coming up against the cup, opening up that rose. Kind of looks like candy corn. And bringing this down. And I'm going to swipe in here just because we are looking a little candy cornish. Alright, that's how we do roses. I will show you later on how to put the detail in. But for now, that's a one-stroke rose.